This is Philip Kotler, and welcome to the Global Open Academy. I'm going to discuss a very interesting issue. What's happening to marketing? We know it's changing. What's in the future of marketing? I normally use this cover because it shows a picture of me and it shows the recent very successful book of a few hundred pages called Marketing 5.0, which is an updating of what's happening. And another book, H2H Marketing, which is human to human marketing, also recently released. And the last book there is my 700 or 800 page textbook on marketing, which covers everything. The other two books are just updating books for the times. But let me move on to the future of marketing. And I have to mention all the global challenges because they are affecting the future of marketing. COVID pandemic clearly has changed so much. And we're all praying that we can eliminate it or eradicate it, or at least live more comfortably with it for the while. But it's there, and I want to say some things about it. And then there's another big C besides COVID, and that is climate change. And as a matter of fact, if we didn't have COVID, our whole being would be tied up with this question of the warming of the earth as a result of the emission of gas into the air, carbon. We create carbon whenever we move, and we are carbonizing and heating up the world, and the planet is at risk. And we'll say more about that. And then there's global dependency. Most companies know that either they're going to source some of the material they need for making their product from places abroad, or hopefully be able to market their products abroad. And we want to always take that point of view. And we want to see what the impact of the internet and digital media is doing to marketing. And the changing media, Facebook, Google, all of those things, and they have their equivalents in Asia, where you have a Tencent and so many other new platforms. And then there's more and more innovation, which is to be applauded, except that a lot of these innovations either fail or they have shorter life cycles. And that's no reason not to innovate, but pay attention to the fact that it's a very fast-changing world. And even retail, we thought stores will always be there, but the fact is we can order almost anything online without going to the store. So will stores survive? What are they going to have to do to survive? And what about the environment and how to preserve it and protect it? And we are now facing customers who are so well-informed, they're empowered. We can't take them for granted. They'll look up anything, especially if it's an expensive item. They're going to go right into the internet and look up every brand and its price and the reviews, what people say about that brand. And we have to respect our customers. And there's going to be, every company is going to be asked to not only make profits, but also pay attention to sustainability, which will reduce your profits in the short run, but in the long run, it will increase your profits. So how are you going to balance how much to take out as profit and how much to put into more sustainable marketing? And will economic growth grow as it has in the past, or will it slow down? So let's see what we can find out. Now, do you know there's a lot of new tools in marketing that the digital age has brought to us? And these tools I'm going to call MarTech, just like in the financial world, the people who do finance have a lot of new tools, digital tools, but they call it FinTech. What are some of them? Well, one of them is 3D printing. We're beginning to almost call it 5D printing. The ability to put a picture on a computer screen of a project, of a product, a component, let's say. Just imagine that it's a vase or a jar, and you design it. Maybe it's a pretty one with colors and so on. It's on your computer screen, and now with a printer, we can print it out. We could make out of plaster or some material that exact thing you just designed on your computer screen. Well, now people are talking about designing housing using printing. You print the components that make up a home, house. You know, the walls, the ceilings, the whatever. So that's a tool to consider. AI, artificial intelligence, is strong now, and especially the form called algorithms. Now, algorithms, you know, algorithms are actually making a lot of decisions for us now. I'll give you an example. When you go to a bank and you want to borrow money, in the old days, the banker had a lot of experience in, he could tell whether you're going to pay back the loan or probably not. And then he would give you a no or a yes, because he had a lot of experience. But he did make mistakes too. Today, that banker is going to go to a computer program called an algorithm, and it's going to dictate whether you should make the loan or not to that borrower. What's it based on? It's based on studying how the banker makes his decisions, what variables he uses, maybe the age of the borrower, the income, the education. Yes, it has those things about the borrower, but it also has weights. And the weights are being derived from the cases where the banker made wrong decisions. In other words, you're trying to create a piece of software that will generally make better decisions than the banker alone could make. And that's your algorithm. And by the way, another place algorithms are prominent are in who to admit to college. You get all this, the data on the applicant, and then you put it into the algorithm and it says admit or not admit him. We're using it in prisons. Should we release a prisoner or not? What does the algorithm say about the likelihood that he will be a good person if we granted a pardon? Okay, let me move on. And so there's a lot of digital and social media. We all know about Facebook and things like that. And they are selling tools. You know, social media company like Facebook knows so much about so many people, and you can place ads for a very distinct group. You don't have to send an ad to everyone. You just name the niche that you want to win over, and they'll send the message to that particular group or subgroup. Now, there's a lot happening with voice recognition. If you have an iPhone, you know that there's a voice called Siri. Siri is a woman, and just ask her what the temperature is, or what is the date for the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States. She knows everything. And by the way, if you don't want it to be a woman's voice, it could be a butler's voice. It could be a man's voice, whatever. Alexa is another one who you could ask questions and she'll answer the questions. People are looking now at facial recognition. Not much has been done yet, but if you see your customers a lot and are sensitive, you can tell from their face often what emotions they're in. You might be talking to someone and thinking they're very interested, but you can tell maybe they're just obliging you, but not not caring about what you're saying. So more work is going on to both voice and facial. Big data, that the way to be successful is to find out as much as we can about the individual customers we want and have. Where do they shop? What do they read? How often do they go shopping? What are their favorite products and brands, and so on? Lots of data. And if you collect a lot of data, you can put them into your programs, and we call it machine learning, and hope that the result will be insights into how they're being driven, what drives their behavior. In other words, you throw all this data into the system that you've created for machine learning, and you will come out with insights that you didn't even know. You may have thought people are buying very rationally or something, but you'll suddenly see some relationships that strike you as very interesting. What about big data? I'm sorry, about robotics. We'll say more about robotics at some other point, but the Japanese in particular are trying to robotize a lot of things in the making of products, and even have artificial dogs and cats. You know, take a person who's in his 70s or 80s, retired, doesn't want to have a dog to walk and every few hours, you know. He wants just a dog to pet. It's a robot dog that barks and goes to sleep and so on and so forth. Now, what do we mean by chatbots? To chat is to talk to someone. A chatbot could be a piece of software that will answer a lot of questions about a particular product. Let's say you got your retailer to carry your new product, and there's a lot of questions people will ask about it. And instead of tying up your salespeople to be repeatedly answering the same questions, you tell people to just ask the software, how long will that product last? Will there be a discount later? I think questions like that, and you had prepared the answers to all of the imagined questions that might come up with a new product. That's a chatbot. I hope you start using virtual reality. I'll give you the best case. Suppose you are a big auto company, and it's going to take you 3 years to develop a new car for some group, and you are going to invest a lot of money in building the factory and getting the dealers trained and so on. Now, how do you know people are going to buy that car? Why don't you make a version of it before you put any money into a factory? Make it such a good version that you can hand to a customer a pair of glasses, and they begin to see a car. They see themselves walking toward that car, opening the door, hearing the sound of opening the door, getting into the seat. They actually feel they're getting into the seat and starting the engine and driving. What you've done is you've created a virtual reality. And now you could ask them, how was that experience? If most of the people say they love it, it gives you some confidence in making that factory and building that car. If most of the people say, well, it was interesting, but I wasn't comfortable sitting in that car and I didn't like the sound or something. So using reality in our innovation work is important. We got to pay attention to blockchains and the arrival of digital money. I don't think digital money is going to be used to buy and sell things, but we'll see. I won't say much about that now. Sensors, they're going to be all over, everywhere. Even now, we have it, the temperature in our home is regulated by settings you give the sensors. And if the place is getting too hot, you can easily change the level at which you want the temperature. But I could walk toward my new car and the door opens or unlocks because I have something on me that will send a signal to the car that I'm arriving. So it's about the Internet of Things. Marketing automation. We would like to develop what we call intelligent virtual agents who can make decisions for us. You know why? We go to sleep at night. A lot could happen when you're asleep. If your whole marketing organization is asleep, wouldn't you like some virtual agents there to sort of react to a price change while you were asleep? Okay. Can we do anything with these new vehicles? The drones. You remember the company Amazon kept talking about maybe they'll deliver products we bought by dropping them out of the air. Not dropping it literally, but the drone will come down to the front of our home and put the product right there and maybe just phone us. The product is right outside of your door. So think about these new vehicles and what the impact will also be on the self-driving cars in the future. And that our networks will get better. We'll go to 5G networks. And can we get our salespeople to be trained faster and better using online and distance learning techniques? And hey, are we using neuroscience enough? For example, Procter & Gamble, they often test a message before sending it out by hiring two different people to speak the message, one a man and the other a woman, and it's the same message. And they have a sample of people who will listen to the message, and you're essentially asking which message impressed you more, when it came from the man or the woman, or maybe two people, but with two different messages. In other words, there's no reason to send out a message without testing the messenger, man, woman, young or old person, and the message itself. So neuroscientists are very helpful now in testing your messages. Let's move on now from MarTech to a real company. Let's imagine a company, and it has this CEO. And the chief executive officer, when you ask his background or her background, because women can also be running big companies, many of them are lawyers by training. Many of them, if not lawyers, they're finance people. They grew up with accounting and finance. Very few company CEOs are marketing people. Unless they went to a good MBA program and had some strong marketing course as part of their training, along with finance and production and so on. Here's what I worry about. The CEO I would worry about is what I call a one-piece CEO. All he believes in is price. Price makes all the difference. Listen, the product is set, the place is set, the promotion is set, price. Or maybe the whole thing is product, but he doesn't price it right. He doesn't promote it right. So now this could happen because he never studied marketing. He might think marketing is just pricing something well, or he might think it's advertising something well, and he spends a lot of money on advertising. I'd rather have a CEO work for one who is a 4P CEO and knows that price, product, price, place, and promotion are the foundations of a good offer. Better than that, I want him to know enough about STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning, so that he doesn't go after the whole market. And he has put out a good message about the product. In fact, a few times I meet a CEO who is an ME, marketing is everything. The head of Unilever, Paul Holman, was a ME. He saw how marketing was the foundation of the company. It's the choice of the customers that they want to serve so well that they will own those customers. Okay, let's move on. Now you need someone to head marketing and sales and things like that besides the CEO. The CEO is not going to be, he's got enough to do, but he wants to have a good head of marketing. Now, we used to call the head of marketing the vice president of marketing. And we also had a vice president of sales. And often if we had both, they conflicted. And frankly, the more important one was the vice president of sales. I'll tell you why. No sales, no customers, no profits. Marketing was there really to help the salesperson have the information that he needs to be good at selling. The aim of marketing was to prepare a lot of help for the salesperson through advertising, marketing research, and promotion. So now the worst thing in a company is when you have two people, one heading sales and one heading marketing, and they don't like each other and they're fighting it half the time. The company's going to fail. One solution is make one of them the real head. I'd like it to be the chief marketing officer. And I would like the head of sales to be one of his major organizations under him. So the head of sales works for marketing rather than marketing works for sales, which is the reversal of the origin of the two functions. Today, in many companies, large companies, the CMO works to figure out the not only the purpose and the goals of the company from his point of view or her point of view, but also what the quotas are, sales quotas. I mean, how much should a salesman sell if he's selling computers? How many computers per month should he be able to sell? And how do you convince the salesman that you priced it, that's a reasonable sales quota? So a lot of work is being done. By the way, truthfully, you want the sales and marketing people to work on this together, because for the marketing people to set all of the marketing plan without the participation of the salesperson would be a stupid mistake. The sales management must be accepting what marketing says about the ads and the marketing research and the price that should be charged and the promotion. Okay, so once you have a CMO that will be VOC, voice of customer. The CMO's job is to be the voice of the customer when the company thinks of everything else too. And the one task is to monitor the changing landscape of customers, and then to manage the company brand, which really means that there's going to be some brand managers under the CMO. And to upgrade the marketing technology, you know, all this MarTech stuff and internet stuff has to be trained into the staff. You know, most marketing people are pre-digital. Most companies are run by people who were baby boomers. So you've got to quickly hire lots of new people who grew up with digital if you're going to fit the new order of things. So upgrading marketing technology is another job of the CMO. and bringing insight into what drives the buying decision, and to then finally be able to tell the CEO and the board the return on marketing investment, the ROI. We spend a lot of money on marketing. What did we get for it? Now, that's the hardest thing, because you're using so many things to achieve your marketing goals that you can't sometimes know how much did the Facebook help? How much did the Instagram help? How much did the price matter? But anyways, there's a lot of tasks of the CMO. Here's a little question. If you were appointed the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, where would you like your office to be? Next to the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer? In other words, next to the head of the company? Are you afraid to be next to him? Like you're next door and he can ask you a lot of tough questions. How you doing? You know our market share? But, you know, it would be good because he needs a lot of education. The CEO was not trained in marketing. Maybe you should be located next to him, because who is always located next to him? The CFO. The Chief Financial Officer is talking every day to the CEO. Why shouldn't you talk every day too, or have something to share with the CEO? Or you might say, no, I want to be next to the Chief Technology Officer, where we're developing new products, or the Chief Information Officer, or I want to just be comfortable with my Vice President of Sales. So it's an interesting question how you communicate within your company with these different officers. Now, a lot is happening to the whole purpose of a company. We're doing some new thinking. And it started with a remark by Larry Fink. Now, who's Larry Fink? He's the head of the BlackRock Group, and it manages billions and billions of investment dollars. And in his annual report in 2018, he made this statement: society is demanding that companies, both public and private, serve a social purpose. Yes, of course, a profit purpose too, but a social purpose as well. To prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society. By the way, there are always some companies that felt that way anyways. Among them, Starbucks, Unilever, Levi Strauss, Nike, Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's, that saw they made a social purpose too out of their business. But Larry hit the nail on the head, and it was followed by 2019, the Business Roundtable in the United States, consisting of 181 major US companies, the ones you know, got together to redefine the purpose of a company. And it's not only about profit making. A company should have multiple priorities, and creating shareholder value might not be the major priority at the time. I always thought that profit is the major priority, but they say that there are several priorities. And here's a list. Delivering value to customers is a high priority. Investing in employees is a high priority. Dealing fairly and ethically with suppliers. Supporting local communities. Generating long-term value for shareholders too. Okay, good. So that's happening. As a matter of fact, I've always wanted to get a picture of what a really successful company would look like. And I think it's been put together in this book that I wish I had written. I know the writers and think so highly of them. It's called Firms of Endearment. Please read it if you're running a company or managing business. Terms of endearment. Yeah, a lot of words. What does that mean? These writers identified those 25 companies in the United States that people dearly loved. They said, isn't it the job to create the happiest companies and the most profitable companies? Let's identify them. So they identified Coca-Cola, Apple Computer, several companies, 25 of them, and found out, and these are beloved by their own customers, love them. Found out that they outperformed their competitors by 9-1 over a 10-year period. And that if you go in and walk into those companies, the employees are happier, more motivated, more loyal, more innovative, and the suppliers are more profitable and the companies are more environmental. Wow. That's the kind of company I want to be. Okay. Well, what are the principles? Well, they were discussed in the book, that in these companies, almost all of the leaders and thinking boils to these 8 points. The company aligns the interest of all the stakeholder groups, not just everything isn't just for the shareholder. The executive salaries are relatively modest. And I'm saying that because in some of our big companies, the head of the company gets 320 times more than the average worker. Go back to the fact that Peter Drucker said back in the 30s, 20 is the right number. The boss should get 20 times as much as the average worker, not 320 times, 20 times. All right, let's say 100 times. But I am surprised there isn't a rebellion in companies today by employees about how much they're paying the head and the top managers in the executive suite. In these companies, these 25 that were studied, there was much more modesty. And if you worked in those companies, you could reach the boss with a good idea. Open door policy. You don't want the bosses to be isolated from the working part of the company. And the employee compensation was higher than the competitors were paying. And you know, the employer stayed much longer with less turnover. And these were companies that would look especially for hiring people who were passionate. They liked people. These were people who liked people. And they view suppliers as true partners who collaborate in improving productivity and lowering costs and giving good quality. And these companies all had a good corporate culture, which they thought was their greatest asset, just the culture of the company. You know, Starbucks really takes care of its employees. It wants to help them go to college if they haven't gone. And it really wants them to be professional baristas in serving the coffee. Anyways, the biggest thing that impressed me about this kind of company is their marketing costs are lower than their competitors. You know why? Because the marketing is done by their customers to other customers. The whole point is these customers love the company and they say only good. On Facebook, they say, oh, I just bought a Mercedes and I love the car, or whatever they say, but they are marketing for you. You don't have to spend as much advertising money when your customers themselves are doing your advertising. Okay, great book to read. Now I'm going to tell you about just 2 or 3 other people, and then because they are bringing us into the future of marketing and business. Paul Pullman headed the Unilever company for 10 years. And he made sure that Unilever would define its purpose and its value proposition, which is to create real value for the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, not just the shareholders. And he defined the groups the stakeholders into 7 groups: consumers, customers, business partners, suppliers, agencies, communities, the planet, and shareholders. He made shareholders the last group of importance. He put the planet ahead of them in being important. And he created a sustainable living plan. He balances both earning profits and sustainability. He said, I want to double the company's growth in the next period. I want to cut in half our negative environmental impact. Every company is hurting the environment in some ways. He wants to cut that in half. And he wants to triple the impact on the social society and making things better in the society. And he succeeded. And he got the company's sales from 38 billion to 60 some billion by the time he finished. And he recruits higher purpose-driven people. By the way, he works a lot on the brands. He believes that every brand must have a higher purpose as well as its normal purpose. I mean, he wants the brand manager running the ice cream business to talk more about not just the good taste of ice cream, but how ice cream plays a wonderful role in producing happiness and so on. So, and also he runs a food division and a cleaning division. And now, because he's futuristically minded, he has renamed the food division the Future Foods Division, I believe. I'm just seeing if we have everything here. Maybe I'm missing a few points, but even the clean division, the one that cleans things, is the Future Clean Division. Okay, you can, by the way, see him live on the internet. Just put down his name and you'll see him giving a 1-hour talk with no notes about how to run a business. Okay. I'm also very taken with Mr. Yoshida from YKK. YKK makes our zippers, whether it's on our pants or on in a woman's purse. They're the greatest company making zippers. But he seems to feel his company's philosophy is to run a cycle of goodness. Now, I don't want to go through this whole chart, but I want you to look at 2 things. The yellow at the beginning, the yellow part, is what happens to the workers, the employees. In most companies, there's only one thing in such a box, and it's the wages. So wages are paid. So the worker goes home with wages. He doesn't want that. He wants that there to be more. The worker should also go home with a bonus. If the company has done very well, the workers should get a bonus too. And they should get a bonus for ideas that they came up with. So wages and bonus. But he doesn't stop there. He thinks that they should buy a share in his company. They should be a shareholder. And if they're a shareholder, they're going to be even more interested in doing a great job for the company. So just isn't that wonderful thinking that, aren't they on his side that way? And then you'll notice that on the upper top, there's tax payment and philanthropy. He makes sure that his business generates very good taxes paid to the government, and some of the profits will be turned into philanthropy to do good things. So you can play with this diagram and maybe modify it for your own company. I'm going to end with 1 or 2 thoughts, particularly this one: millennials. Most companies are now hiring millennials and Generation Z, who are even younger than millennials. Please understand that the millennials are not like the people you used to have in your company. First of all, they are much more digital. They grew up with the digital revolution. They can teach the boss digital. In fact, a smart boss will schedule a young millennial to be teaching them once a week more about the digital revolution and tools. The millennials care about social problems and economic justice. You understand that's a new concern. They may not want to work for a company that is not doing anything for economic justice or social problems. And these millennials want a good life. They want a nice balance between work and family and friends. It isn't all work. And they prefer to work for a socially oriented and responsible company. So factor that into your hiring. Now I'm going to end this with my main points about marketing in the future and how it will look. Consumers will be able to select the best brands without resorting to advertising or salespeople in the future. Wow. Professor Kotler is saying that maybe the amount of information available to these empowered consumers to find out about everything about brands they buy, they don't need a salesman to explain anything or to see ads because it's right in the reviews. Most products are, look, if I'm going to go to a hotel, I can read reviews of what people who went to that hotel said about that hotel. In a sense, maybe marketing is going to play a smaller role in the future as far as the power of advertising and salespeople. I can give you one example in the pharmaceutical business. You know that a salesperson coming to a doctor's office to see the doctor about a new pharmaceutical is told by the nurse, you can't see him. Just leave your sample and the brochure, and he will get in touch with you if he has any questions. No, the doctor has no time for the salesperson. If he will hopefully read and use the product if it fits, but it's increasingly hard for salespeople to get to see the doctor. They're basically dropping off samples. So let's be alert to that. Marketing creativity will be crucial in the area of experiential marketing. In a store, a person is having an experience, and a store that wants people to come in and come back again has to be creative in its personnel, in the way it delivers an experience to the customer, a positive experience, a moment of truth. Marketers will make more use of customer journey mapping, which I explained, touchpoint marketing, personas, content, and influencers. Watch them. They're very key ideas. Marketers will increase their use of virtual reality to deliver better product understanding to their prospects before even making the product. Marketers will make greater use of neural networking to identify the best stimuli. And marketers will use predictive analytics and machine learning to identify and convert the best prospects. So the marketing future is mixed, especially if there's going to be less of a role for some advertising and salespeople. On the other hand, the function will be needed by all. Thank you very much.